What if the biggest reason your desire hasn't appeared is because you're treating it like it's still in the future? Think about that for a moment. Most people keep saying, it's coming, one day, or soon. But every time you do that, you're telling your subconscious that what you want is still out of reach. Now imagine something completely different. Imagine waking up today with the quiet certainty that your dream actually happened yesterday. No waiting, no chasing, no anxiety. Just the calm feeling that it's already part of your life. That single shift can completely change the way you think, feel, and act. And those changes influence every decision you make. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll understand the simple mental method that can transform hope into confidence and change the way you approach every goal. Have you ever noticed how often people speak about their dreams as though they belong to a distant future? They say, one day I'll be successful, soon my life will change, or I hope it happens eventually. These phrases sound hopeful on the surface, but they quietly reinforce one powerful idea: it hasn't happened yet. Every time you repeat that message, your mind becomes more familiar with waiting than with receiving. It learns to associate your desire with distance instead of reality. Your subconscious mind responds less to the words you say and more to the emotional meaning behind them. If your dominant feeling is anticipation, uncertainty, or longing, your inner world continues rehearsing the experience of not having what you want. This isn't because your mind is working against you. It's because it faithfully accepts the emotional state you practice most often. Whatever feeling becomes familiar begins to shape the way you think, react, and move through life. Think about someone waiting for important news. They constantly check their phone, refresh their email, and wonder when the message will arrive. Even if they try to stay positive, their attention remains fixed on the fact that they are still waiting. That waiting creates tension. It fills the mind with questions, doubt, and impatience. The same thing can happen when you approach your goals. If every day begins with wondering when something will happen, your focus remains on its absence rather than its fulfillment. Now imagine a completely different approach. Instead of asking yourself, when will this finally happen? Ask a new question. How would I naturally feel if this became true yesterday? Notice how different that question feels. It doesn't ask you to predict the future. It invites you to experience completion instead of expectation. Suddenly your attention shifts away from waiting and toward acceptance. That simple mental change can completely transform your emotional state. When something truly happened yesterday, you don't chase it anymore. You don't beg for it. You don't wonder if it will arrive because, in your experience, it already has. There is a quiet confidence that replaces urgency. There is relief instead of pressure. That feeling is far more stable than excitement because it carries the calm certainty of something already settled. Consider a simple everyday example. Think about graduating from school or finishing an important project. The day before it happened, you probably felt nervous and uncertain. But the day after, everything changed. You weren't asking whether it would happen anymore. Your mind had already accepted it as part of your story. You didn't need constant proof because the event already belonged to your memory. That same sense of completion is what this mental exercise encourages you to practice. This isn't about pretending or denying your current circumstances. It's about choosing which emotional state you strengthen every day. Your mind is always learning from repetition. If you repeatedly practice stress, your mind becomes skilled at stress. If you repeatedly practice confidence, gratitude, and quiet certainty, those emotions begin to feel natural as well. Over time, they influence the decisions you make, the opportunities you notice, and the way you respond to challenges. The remarkable thing is that your behavior often changes long before your circumstances do. A person who feels secure tends to communicate with greater confidence. Someone who feels hopeful is more willing to take positive action. Someone who believes good things are possible usually notices opportunities that fear would overlook. These small changes in attitude and behavior can gradually create meaningful changes in real life. So the next time you catch yourself saying, maybe someday, pause for a moment. Replace that thought with a different perspective. Ask yourself, if this became true yesterday, how would I feel today? Allow yourself to experience that quiet sense of relief, gratitude, and confidence for just a few moments. You don't need to force it. Simply become familiar with the feeling. The goal isn't to escape reality. The goal is to stop rehearsing delay and start rehearsing possibility. Your subconscious responds to what feels familiar, not to what feels distant. The more familiar confidence becomes, the less room fear has to control your thoughts. And sometimes, the greatest shift in your life begins with nothing more than changing the story you tell yourself about what is already possible. Most people spend their lives waiting. They wait for the perfect opportunity, the right relationship, better finances, or the day everything finally falls into place. While waiting feels natural, it often keeps your attention fixed on what you believe is missing. Every day becomes another reminder that your goal is still somewhere in the future. Without realizing it, waiting becomes a habit, and habits shape the way we experience life. Now consider a completely different perspective. Instead of living as someone who is waiting for life to change, imagine living as someone who is simply remembering that it already did. This small shift may sound unusual at first, but it changes the emotional direction of your thoughts. Waiting creates tension because it depends on uncertainty. Remembering creates peace because it assumes the experience is already complete. Think about something wonderful that happened in your past. Perhaps it was graduating, getting your first job, moving into a new home, or reconnecting with someone important. You don't spend your time wondering whether those moments will happen. You remember them with certainty. There is no struggle to believe them, because they already belong to your story. Your mind accepts them naturally without effort. This is the emotional state you want to practice with your goals. Instead of repeatedly asking, "Will it happen?" gently imagine saying, "It happened yesterday." Notice what changes inside you. The pressure begins to fade. Your breathing may become calmer. Your thoughts become less frantic. Instead of chasing a future event, you experience the quiet relief of something already accomplished. One simple exercise can help you understand this feeling. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine meeting a close friend today. Picture them smiling and asking, "So how did everything go?" In your imagination, respond with complete confidence, "It all worked out yesterday." There is no need for a long explanation. Just notice the feeling behind those words. Notice the calm, the gratitude, and the sense that the struggle is over. That emotional experience is more important than creating a perfect mental picture. Many people believe they need intense excitement to create change, but excitement often disappears quickly. Peace lasts much longer. When you remember something instead of waiting for it, you naturally become calmer. You stop forcing outcomes. You stop checking every hour to see if something has changed. You begin trusting the process instead of fighting it. That inner peace can help you make wiser decisions and respond more confidently to everyday situations. This approach also changes the way you react to temporary setbacks. Imagine driving toward your destination and encountering a traffic delay. You don't assume you've forgotten where you're going. You simply continue the journey because you already know your destination exists. In the same way, when challenges appear in life, remembering your desired outcome helps you avoid becoming discouraged by every obstacle. Temporary delays no longer define your entire story. Another powerful benefit of remembering is that it changes your identity. Someone who believes their dream is already part of their life thinks differently than someone who believes they are still trying to earn it. Their conversations change. Their body language changes. Their confidence grows naturally because they are no longer emotionally attached to the idea of lack. They begin acting with quiet assurance instead of constant anxiety. Of course, this doesn't mean ignoring reality or pretending problems don't exist. Life still presents challenges, responsibilities, and moments of uncertainty. The difference is that you no longer allow those moments to control your inner state. Instead of feeding fear with endless waiting, you return to the peaceful feeling of completion. You remind yourself that your inner story matters just as much as your outer circumstances. As you practice this each day, you'll notice something interesting. Your attention begins shifting away from what you don't have and toward the qualities you want to embody: gratitude, confidence, patience, and trust. These qualities influence your choices, your relationships, and the opportunities you recognize. Little by little, your outer life starts reflecting the inner stability you've been cultivating. So whenever you catch yourself counting the days or wondering when your dream will finally arrive, pause for a moment. Replace waiting with remembering. Quietly tell yourself, "It happened yesterday." Let those words create a feeling of relief, rather than pressure. You don't have to force belief or ignore your circumstances. Simply become familiar with the emotional experience of completion. Sometimes the greatest change begins not by chasing the future, but by learning to remember it differently. Every choice you make begins with one invisible factor, your identity. Before you take action, before you speak, and even before you react to a situation, your mind asks a silent question. Who am I? The answer to that question shapes nearly every decision you make. If you see yourself as capable, you naturally move with confidence. If you see yourself as unlucky or not good enough, your actions often reflect those beliefs. Long before circumstances influence your life, your identity influences your circumstances. Many people focus only on changing their habits, but habits are usually the result of identity. Think about two people who are offered the same opportunity. One immediately says, "I can handle this." The other says, "I'm probably not qualified." They are looking at the same opportunity, yet they respond completely differently. The difference isn't intelligence or talent. It's the story each person believes about themselves. This is why changing your identity is so powerful. If you continue thinking of yourself as someone who is always trying to become successful, your mind stays trapped in the role of a seeker. There is always another mountain to climb and another reason to doubt yourself. But when you begin seeing yourself as a person who already possesses confidence, wisdom, or abundance, your choices naturally begin to reflect that new identity. You stop chasing who you want to become because you begin living as that version of yourself. Now connect this idea to the simple phrase, "It happened yesterday." If your desire became reality yesterday, who are you today? That question is far more important than asking when something will happen. Imagine waking up this morning knowing that your goal has already become part of your life. Would you still spend the day worrying? Would you constantly seek approval from others? Would you speak with hesitation? Or would there be a quiet confidence in your words? Your identity changes the moment your inner story changes. Take a moment to imagine someone who has just achieved an important milestone. Perhaps they have started a successful business, found a fulfilling relationship, or reached a personal goal they worked toward for years. The morning after that achievement, they don't suddenly become a different human being, but their perspective changes. They walk differently. They speak differently. They make decisions with greater certainty because they now see themselves through a new lens. Their identity has expanded, and their actions naturally follow. The beautiful part is that you don't have to wait for an external event before practicing that identity. You can begin developing those qualities today. Ask yourself simple questions throughout the day. How would the version of me whose dream happened yesterday respond to this situation? How would they handle criticism? How would they spend their time? What would they choose to focus on? These questions gently guide your thoughts toward the person you want to become, instead of the fears you want to leave behind. This doesn't mean pretending to be someone you're not. It means recognizing the qualities you already have the ability to develop. Confidence grows through confident choices. Gratitude grows through grateful thoughts. Patience grows through patient responses. Every time you choose these qualities, you strengthen the identity connected to them. Little by little, they become your natural way of living instead of something you occasionally practice. One common mistake is believing that identity changes overnight. In reality, it changes through repetition. Every day you repeat the same self-image, you reinforce it. If you constantly tell yourself that you're unlucky, your mind looks for evidence to support that belief. If you repeatedly remind yourself that you are capable, resilient, and growing, your attention begins noticing opportunities instead of limitations. Your inner dialogue becomes the foundation upon which future decisions are built. Over time, these small identity shifts create remarkable changes. You become more willing to take healthy risks. You recover more quickly from setbacks. You stop comparing yourself with everyone else because your confidence comes from within rather than from external validation. Your actions become more consistent because they are no longer driven by fear, but by a clear sense of who you believe yourself to be. So instead of asking, "What do I need to do to change my life?" try asking a different question. Who do I believe I am? The answer to that question influences every conversation, every opportunity, and every decision you make. When you begin living from the identity of someone whose dream already became reality yesterday, your choices naturally align with that belief. And as your choices change, your life begins changing with them. The transformation always starts within, because the person you believe yourself to be is the person your decisions continually create. And invariably bow before the dictates of facts. and accept life on the basis of the world without. They check their phone every few minutes, refresh their email, watch their bank account, replay conversations in their mind, or wonder whether today's events are finally the sign they've been waiting for. At first, this behavior seems harmless. It feels responsible, hopeful, or even productive. But underneath it is a quiet message being repeated to the subconscious. It hasn't happened yet. The more often you search for evidence, the more you reinforce the feeling of waiting. Imagine planting a seed in a garden. You carefully place it in the soil, water it, and give it sunlight. Now imagine digging it up every hour just to see whether it has started growing. No matter how badly you want it to bloom, constantly checking it won't make it grow faster. In fact, disturbing it repeatedly could prevent it from taking root. Your goals work in a similar way. Every time you interrupt your inner confidence by demanding immediate proof, you weaken the sense of trust that allows steady progress. This doesn't mean you should ignore reality or stop taking practical action. If you're applying for jobs, continue sending applications. If you're improving your health, continue making healthy choices. If you're building a business, keep doing the work that matters. The difference is your emotional relationship with the outcome. Instead of acting from fear that nothing is happening, you act from the confidence that your efforts are meaningful, even when results are not immediately visible. Think about learning a new skill like playing an instrument or exercising at the gym. During the first few days, you may not notice dramatic improvement. If you looked in the mirror every hour expecting major changes, you'd probably become frustrated. But those who stay consistent understand something important. Progress often happens quietly before it becomes obvious. They trust the process because they know visible results are built upon invisible progress. The same principle applies to your inner world. Every time you choose confidence over panic, patience over worry, or gratitude over frustration, you are strengthening a healthier mental habit. These changes may not produce instant external results, but they reshape the way you think, make decisions, and respond to challenges. Often the greatest transformation begins inside long before it becomes visible on the outside. One reason people constantly search for evidence is because uncertainty feels uncomfortable. The mind naturally wants reassurance. It wants to know that everything is working out exactly as planned. But life rarely provides instant confirmation. If your peace depends on constant proof, you'll always find yourself riding an emotional roller coaster. One encouraging event makes you excited. One setback fills you with doubt. Your confidence rises and falls depending on what happens around you. Real confidence works differently. It doesn't disappear the moment circumstances become difficult. It stays grounded because it isn't built entirely on external conditions. Imagine a lighthouse standing beside the ocean during a storm. The waves crash against the rocks. The wind blows fiercely. Yet the lighthouse continues shining because its purpose doesn't depend on calm weather. In the same way, your inner confidence becomes stronger when you stop allowing every temporary situation to determine how you feel. Whenever doubt appears, gently remind yourself of the simple idea you've been practicing throughout this journey. It happened yesterday. If your goal truly became reality yesterday, would you spend today desperately searching for signs that it happened? Of course not. You would naturally move through your day with quiet certainty, because the outcome would already be part of your story. This simple mental reminder helps shift your attention away from fear and back toward trust. You'll also notice that when you stop obsessively looking for evidence, you become more present. Instead of living entirely in tomorrow, you begin appreciating today. You enjoy conversations more fully. You notice opportunities that anxiety once caused you to overlook. You make clearer decisions because your mind isn't clouded by constant worry. Ironically, letting go of the need for immediate proof often creates the emotional space needed for growth and meaningful progress. So the next time you feel tempted to check for signs every hour, pause for a moment. Take a slow breath and ask yourself, am I looking for evidence because I trust the process, or because I'm afraid nothing is happening? Let that question guide you back to a place of calm confidence. Continue taking wise action, continue improving yourself, and continue moving forward. But release the habit of demanding instant confirmation. Some of life's greatest changes are taking place long before you can see them. Trust the process. Stay consistent. And remember that lasting transformation is often invisible before it becomes undeniable. Most people live emotionally behind their circumstances. They wait for something good to happen before they allow themselves to feel grateful, peaceful, or confident. They tell themselves, when I get the promotion, then I'll relax. When I find the right relationship, then I'll feel complete. When my finances improve, then I'll stop worrying. It sounds reasonable, but this way of thinking places your emotional well-being entirely in the hands of future events. Your peace becomes something you postpone instead of something you practice. Now imagine approaching life from a completely different direction. Instead of waiting for tomorrow to give you permission to feel better, begin living today with the emotional state you believe tomorrow will bring. This is what it means to live one day ahead emotionally. It doesn't mean pretending that challenges don't exist. It means choosing not to let temporary circumstances decide the quality of your inner life. Think about the central idea of this message. It happened yesterday. If your greatest desire truly became reality yesterday, how would you wake up this morning? Would you begin the day overwhelmed by worry? Or would there be a quiet sense of relief? Would you rush through every moment searching for proof? Or would you naturally move through the day with calm confidence? The difference isn't found in your circumstances. It's found in your emotional state. Imagine someone who has finally completed a long journey toward an important goal. The morning after that achievement, they don't wake up feeling desperate anymore. They don't spend every minute wondering if success will arrive, because, in their experience, it already has. They carry themselves differently. There is less tension in their thoughts, less fear in their decisions, and more appreciation for the present moment. That emotional atmosphere is what you can begin practicing today. Living one day ahead emotionally doesn't require grand gestures. It begins with small moments throughout the day. When you wake up, take a few quiet seconds before reaching for your phone. Imagine how you would breathe if everything had already worked out. Notice how your shoulders would relax. Notice how your thoughts would slow down. Carry that feeling with you into the rest of your morning. These simple moments gradually train your mind to become familiar with peace instead of pressure. This mindset also changes the way you respond to everyday challenges. Suppose something unexpected goes wrong during your day. Perhaps a meeting doesn't go as planned, traffic delays your schedule, or someone says something discouraging. If you're emotionally dependent on perfect circumstances, those moments can quickly destroy your confidence. But if you've already grounded yourself in the feeling that your deeper goal is secure, temporary setbacks lose much of their emotional power. They become obstacles to navigate rather than reasons to lose hope. Another important benefit of living one day ahead emotionally is that it changes the energy you bring into your relationships. People naturally respond differently to someone who carries calm confidence than to someone consumed by fear or desperation. When you stop seeking constant reassurance, you begin listening more carefully, communicating more kindly, and making decisions from wisdom instead of anxiety. Your emotional stability quietly influences the atmosphere around you. Gratitude also becomes easier when you practice this approach. Instead of waiting until every dream comes true, you begin appreciating what is already present while confidently moving toward what is still unfolding. Gratitude doesn't ignore ambition. It simply refuses to believe that happiness must always be postponed until some future milestone is reached. It reminds you that a peaceful heart can exist even while goals are still developing. Remember, this isn't about forcing yourself to feel happy every moment of every day. Everyone experiences disappointment, uncertainty, and difficult seasons. Living one day ahead emotionally means choosing which emotional home you repeatedly return to. Instead of allowing fear to become your default setting, you gently return to confidence. Instead of rehearsing worry, you rehearse peace. Over time, these repeated emotional choices become part of your identity. So tomorrow morning, before the world demands your attention, pause for just a moment. Take a deep breath and quietly remind yourself, it happened yesterday. Let those words create a feeling of relief, gratitude, and quiet confidence. Then carry that emotional state into your conversations, your work, your decisions, and your daily responsibilities. When you begin living from the emotions of fulfillment instead of the emotions of waiting, you stop postponing your peace. And sometimes, that simple inner shift becomes the very foundation upon which lasting outer change is built. The greatest changes in life rarely happen because of one dramatic moment. More often, they happen because of the small things we repeat every single day. A single workout won't transform your body, and one healthy meal won't completely change your health. But when those actions become daily habits, they begin shaping your future. The same principle applies to your thoughts. Your dominant mental habits gradually become the foundation of your beliefs, your decisions, and the direction of your life. Many people become inspired after watching a motivational video or reading an encouraging book. They feel excited for a few hours, maybe even for a day or two, but then life becomes busy again. Old routines return, familiar worries reappear, and the powerful ideas they learn slowly fade into the background. Inspiration is valuable, but inspiration without repetition rarely creates lasting transformation. Real change begins when an idea becomes a habit instead of a temporary emotion. This is why the simple phrase, "It happened yesterday," can become such a powerful daily practice. Its purpose isn't to convince you to ignore reality or pretend that challenges don't exist. Instead, it reminds you to return your attention to the emotional state you want to strengthen. Every time you repeat this practice, you are teaching your mind to become more familiar with confidence, gratitude, and inner peace than with fear, doubt, and constant waiting. The beautiful thing about this habit is that it doesn't require hours of meditation or complicated routines. It can be practiced in just a few quiet moments throughout the day. When you wake up in the morning, before checking your phone or thinking about your responsibilities, pause for a moment. Take a slow, deep breath. Then gently remind yourself, "It happened yesterday." Don't rush to force a strong emotional reaction. Simply allow yourself to experience a quiet feeling of relief, as though an important chapter has already been completed. Throughout the day, you'll probably encounter situations that challenge your peace. Perhaps an unexpected expense appears, someone disappoints you, or an opportunity doesn't develop as quickly as you hoped. These moments are not signs that your practice has failed. They are opportunities to return to it. Instead of allowing your thoughts to spiral into worry, pause again. Take another deep breath and repeat the same reminder. Little by little, your mind learns that peace is something you can return to, instead of something you must wait for. Evening is another powerful time to strengthen this habit. Before going to sleep, spend a few quiet minutes reflecting on your day. Instead of replaying everything that went wrong, gently shift your attention toward the emotional state you want to carry into tomorrow. Imagine lying down knowing that everything important has already worked out. Feel the comfort of completion. Let your final thoughts before sleep be filled with gratitude instead of anxiety. The emotional atmosphere you create before rest often influences the way you begin the next day. Consistency matters far more than intensity. Many people believe they must create a perfect emotional experience every time they practice. But lasting habits aren't built through perfection. They're built through repetition. Some days your mind will feel calm and focused. Other days distractions will appear. That's perfectly normal. The goal isn't to perform the exercise flawlessly. The goal is simply to return to it again and again until it becomes a natural part of your daily life. Over time, you'll notice subtle but meaningful changes. Your reactions become calmer. Your patience grows stronger. You stop feeling the need to control every outcome because your confidence no longer depends entirely on external circumstances. Instead of living with constant emotional highs and lows, you begin developing a quiet stability that supports wiser decisions and healthier relationships. This inner transformation often happens so gradually that you don't notice it until you look back and realize how much you've changed. Remember that every habit begins with one small decision repeated consistently. You don't become confident overnight. You become confident by repeatedly choosing confidence. You don't become peaceful because life is always easy. You become peaceful because you practice returning to peace, even when life feels uncertain. Every time you choose the thought, "It happened yesterday," you strengthen the identity of someone who trusts, believes, and moves through life with calm assurance. So make this more than an interesting idea. Make it part of your daily routine. Carry it with you when you wake up, when challenges appear, and before you go to sleep. Let it become a quiet reminder that your inner world deserves just as much attention as your outer world, because the thoughts you practice every day eventually become the life you experience. And when confidence becomes your habit instead of your exception, you'll discover that lasting transformation always begins from within. The greatest transformation doesn't begin when the world changes. It begins when your inner story changes. When you stop living as someone who's waiting and start thinking like someone whose dream is already part of their life, your perspective shifts, your choices shift, your confidence grows. Whether you're pursuing success, love, health, or a new opportunity, remember this simple idea. Don't imagine it's coming tomorrow. Live today as if it happened yesterday, because the life you repeatedly accept within is the life you're most likely to build without. If this message stayed with you, carry that feeling into the rest of your day.